Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So, guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick confirmation if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. So, before we get started, let me quickly introduce myself to you all first. So, my name is 𝐑𝐨𝐥𝐞-𝐁𝐚𝐬𝐞, and I've been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. So, let's get started. So today we have gathered for a discussion on how we can use Tableau for data science. So first of all, the main agenda for this entire session is going to be around Tableau platforms. So we are going to start with the discussion on what exactly is data visualization, why we have to use Tableau, what exactly it is, what is data science, and then we are going to work on solving the problem statements by using Tableau. So if we talk about data visualization, then we know that almost every industry vertical, they are having a good amount of data being generated, and that too on not on a, we can say, at regular intervals, but on a daily frequency. Be it social media platforms, be it healthcare, aviation, banking sector, they all have been generating data, and that too at an exponential manner. And when we have so much of data, then we have to make sure that in order to sustain, not just grow in the market, but even to sustain in the market, we have to make sure that we are using the data in the best way possible by getting insight, okay, what exactly has been our performance, where exactly we have been lacking, and again, what is the reason behind it, and why our competitors they are growing, or what exactly has been the trend in the market. We need to know that, because again, until and unless we know about these trends, we won't be able to improvise the operations, marketing, development of products. So each and every department, whether we talk about R&D or marketing operations, every department depends upon these knowledge, on this knowledge, right? That's why we will be able to outsmart our competitors, and that's the main reason we will be staying ahead of our competition if we are able to analyze the data, and then if we are able to study the pattern, okay, how exactly the use is going to be, or how the market is going to change for good. And that exactly is what is given to us by data science, in making sure that we are having complete clarity on the market and how exactly we have to customize our plans accordingly. So when we have Tableau data set, it's not easier to make sense of that Tableau data, and that's why visualization allows us to visually to create a visual report out of the current data set that we have the access to, so that we can inform our stakeholders. Even they would be having a good time in understanding the entire data set, and plus there we can have a good report generated on which the entire actions can be taken up. And that exactly is what data visualization is, converting the data in from Tableau or any format into visualized report, so that an action out of it can be taken up, and then we can quickly derive the meaning. We can simplify, we can quickly set up the trend, and then we can find relations between multiple data pointers, and then we can quickly take up actions on top of it. That exactly is what data visualization is all about. And then if you talk about, for example, now just by looking at this data set, so obviously when we are looking at this data set, it may look the same, correct? Because again, there's not much difference that we can observe as a normal user when we are looking at these two tables, right? But when we plot these tables in the graph, for example, when we try to simply visualize this on graph, then we can see the entire correlation for different data pointers are completely different, right? So that's why, again, we cannot say that first one is the same as the second one is same as the first one, and so on. They all have different variation, they all have different correlation with the given data set, and that exactly is what we derive by using data visualization techniques. So now, why exactly we have to use Tableau platforms? Because Tableau is one of the leading BI tools available out in the market. Now, when we say BI tools, that means tools that allow us to work in business intelligence, as in to derive the sense out of the different trends we are going to observe, or we are all currently observing. So like we have tools like we have Power BI offered by Microsoft. Again, then Tableau is also one of the main competitors for Power BI for our complete data analysis requirement. And Tableau is again, Tableau has multiple advantages. That means it offers a better level of scripting. It has the interactive visuals, and it has a quick production time as compared to other developers, and that's why it is preferred by majority of the BI developers all around the globe. And to get started, we also have a free version available by Tableau, by the name of Tableau Public, that we can get started with. So either we can use the enterprise version, or we can use a free Tableau Public to get started with our data analysis job as a part of Tableau platform. And then when you say it is flexible, it means it can be easily connected with multiple data sources as and when required. So Tableau is what? Tableau is basically a software company which produces interactive data visualization products. Like we have Tableau Desktop on business intelligence, and Tableau helps the world's largest companies unleash the power of the most valuable assets, their data and the people. And it allows the customers to spend more time on data analysis and less time on data wrangling methods. So by using Tableau, we can use Tableau to easily integrate, analyze and visualize any data frame that we want. We can easily do that. All right, so we have a version available called as Tableau Public. We have version called as Tableau Public, so we can download Tableau Public to get started. So here we have to enter our credentials, and then will be able to get the download link through which we can get started. Now it is not available as a trial. It is completely free of course that we can use for the analysis part. All right. Once we have Tableau Public downloaded, then we can open this up, and this is how Tableau Public is going to look like that we are going to work on. All right, so if we talk about data science in simple layman terms, it's simply used for increasing the accuracy of the predictions. So here we make use of data sets, and then we apply our own scientific methods. We apply our own statistical knowledge to play around with the numbers and find the most accurate prediction of what exactly is going to be in the market, what is going to happen in the market in that particular area of interest in upcoming months or days. And it involves programming, statistics, and the business use case requirement, case knowledge. So data science involves business requirements, so we have to make sure that our entire work, we can say, aligns with the business goals, so that we have a better understanding of what exactly we are required to do. And then we have to work on data acquisition. That involves data processing, where we, first of all, before every piece of data, we know the entire data set is usually dirty. Dirty as in we have multiple garbage values, we have inconsistencies in the entire data set. So we have to work on pre-processing data set before we can get started. And then we have to work on data exploration, as in like we have the EDA, as an exploratory data analysis, where we can analyze the entire data set and so try to find the answers to the common myths or common assumptions, how if they stand true or not. And then we have to create multiple models for data that we are going to use for the ML pass, ML, we can say machine learning purpose. And then we have deployment that we do once we are done with creating the entire models, then we can deploy them to any solutions like we have Azure, ML Studio, and other platforms. All right, so data science, as we know, is a domain that we make use of in multiple industry verticals. That we have media and entertainment, we make use of healthcare, we make use of data science in education, in government sector, in transportation sector, in insurance, retail, and there are multiple domains. Almost every industry they are generating data set, right? And without a more accurate prediction for what exactly is going to happen in future, they will not be able to sustain for long in the market. And that's why companies like Google, Microsoft, Apple, they have sustained for almost 2 decades, right? Amazon, what is the reason behind that? Again, they are using data extensively in understanding each and every pointer about the market and the users, and how they have to continuously keep on improvising themselves, and that to what pointer and till what extent. That has been the main key pointer for success for them, correct? So the first problem statement that we are going to work on, so it is January of 2016, and CEO of Superstore is looking to bolster business for the upcoming year. The finance team has noticed that there were profit problems for some inventory categories during 2015. So we have been tasked with figuring out which item have had profit problems multiple years in a row, where the problems are happening and why. And we also need to visualize this data so that multiple teams, leadership, sales, finance, marketing, and manufacturers can view the results and understand the data quickly. So for that, we have to make use of a visualization dashboard, and that exactly is what we are going to do as a part of Tableau. So let's get started. So first of all, we have to go back to our Tableau desktop platform. Now here, once we get started, first of all, we have to choose the data source. So now, before we discuss on data source, we have multiple data sources available. So before we choose one, we have Excel. We can derive data from Excel, from text file, from any database. We can set the access to, we can set the connection to any database service, and then we can derive data from there. Now, currently we have some sample files available that we are going to work with. For example, here we have two samples files for which has been made available by Tableau itself as a part of Superstore dataset. So there we are going to work on these two different sheets. First of all, we have the global Superstore orders that we are going to work with. So now these files are available as an Excel file. So we are going to open these Excel files in a Tableau desktop, and then we are going to get started. So here, let's say we open the Excel file. Now here we have three sample files available with us. So we are going to work with Superstore orders, and then we are going to work with Superstore returns as well. So first of all, we are going to work on importing the Superstore orders, and then we are going to import the Superstore returns as well. So let's do one thing. Let's import the Superstore orders 2016. We can click on open, and now this file is going to be opened up in the Tableau public desktop. Now, as you can see here, now currently the file has been loaded here. Now, once we choose, again, depending upon now if you want, we can extract multiple tables here, and then we can start extracting data from these multiple tables as well. We can easily do that. So what we are going to do, we are going to work on two different tables. We are going to work first of all on Tableau total orders, and then we are going to work on different data set, like we have Tableau orders for which have been returned, like those orders which has been returned by the user. That is what we are going to work on as a part of our analysis. So here we can see, here we have two different tables here. Here we have for people, and the other one we have for orders. So currently we can see that now we can see the list of the entire orders that we have access to. Currently we have one table here containing the orders. Now here we have multiple row ID. Here we have the order ID available. We have the order date, the shop date, the ship mode, customer ID, customer name, segment, postal code, city, state, country, region, market. So these all different data pointers are available to us as a part of the analysis that we can perform. And now we may derive this data from, now the same use case is going to be available when we are in our certification training as well. So where we'll be given the access to these different data set, and then we have to solve the problem statement that we are having, so that we can derive meaning out of the current data set. And if we have multiple tables that we want to join together, for example, we have another table which contains data for the orders which have been returned by the end user. So we can simply use this table. We can use that table. We can combine this. We can perform join operations on that table to have a more meaningful insight on how data is structured and how we have to make sense out of it. So if you want to work on another data set, so here we can click on add. And once we are clicking on add, we can add another data source here. So here we can click on add files here. So let's say here we want to derive the files from Excel. So here we can choose Excel as a source. And let's say here we also open for orders return. Now here we can see the list of all the orders which has been returned by the end users. So now if you want to perform join operations on these different tables here. So here, for example, here we have this table about order returns, right? So here we can drag and drop it here, and then we can perform the join operations as well. For example, here, first of all, we have to simply choose, okay, the matching columns that we want to use as a part of defining the relationship. Now we have multiple pointers that overlap here, like we have the segment, we have ship date, we have the category, and the exact date when it was returned by the end customers that we can focus on. Or if you want to work on just one particular analysis, then we can work on that one analysis as well as part of the requirement. Now, when we are defining the relationship, we can define what kind of relationship we want to define, what kind of relationship we want to have in these different use cases. Now, the second one is what we are going to work with on our second use case. So here we are going to work on the first use case itself. So let's remove this relationship for now. So we can remove this for now. And now we have the orders, and now in the same orders we have also combined people as well. So now once we have this kind of data set with us, now we are going to work on visualizing the current data set. So once we are done, we can move to sheet 1 so that we can start making sense out of the current data that we have visualized. So here this is the home page for Tableau, where we have all the dimensions and then we have all the matrices that we can work with, right? And this is a sheet where we are going to work on creating the visualization part. And here we have all the common visualization available based on the data pointer that we are going to select here. That is what we are going to work with as a part of our session. Now, depending upon the data pointer that we can start visualizing accordingly. And our problem statement was to find which particular product is not performing really well. And that is something that we can easily define by fetching the data pointers that we want to visualize here. For example, here we have the order priority, right? So here we can choose the entire order priority from the given measure, from the given table. So for example, here we order priority, and here we can bring into tables. So now here we can define whether we want to visualize this based on rows, or we can define this as columns. We can combine these two together. Now in this example, we have defined the order priority in terms of rows, correct? In terms of row, for example, let's say here if we want, we can remove this and so that we can add other attributes. So if you want to remove that, when we want to visualize, we can choose any of the data pointers here, or once we are done, if you want to remove those data pointers, we can simply click on remove here from the section. All right. So now let's suppose here we want to visualize, okay, what has been the profit among different categories, and that too among different years as well, right? Now here we have the profit that is being visible here as a part of measure. So here we can bring profit and we can place it in the row section. So here we can see the total profit which has been recorded as per the current data set that we are currently looking at. Now we have to, as per our problem statement, we have to visualize which product has not been giving us a good profit in the given years. That exactly is our problem statement, correct? So here we have to make sure that okay, we are going to define the properties as a part of the color segment as well, correct? And now we have to visualize the entire property based on different parameters, correct? So for that, so for example, here we want to make sure we are also giving the properties to color schemes. Then here we can define color schemes, and here we can see the actual profit visible that we can plot against any other colors as well. And if we are going to customize the entire color scheme as well, then here we can simply customize what kind of color we want to customize this for, that we are going to look at. And now basically here we can define profit, and now if you want to define this for different rates, then we can also do that. One thing, let's remove this for now. Here we can define profit in the rows, and now we can define, if you are looking to visualize this based on the data pointers here. For example, here we want to visualize based on the different data pointers on which we have been, on where exactly we have, or in which year we have received the most amount of profit. We want to visualize that. So first of all, we have to define the profit in rows, and then we can choose the year section. That means here in year we have order date. So here we can simply put order date and drive this in the column section here. So currently we can see the entire data set based on different years. And if you want to expand this in here, we can click on this one, and we can see the different profit ratio has been defined. That means what has been the profit in 2012, 2013, 14, and 15. So you can see the actual data set being deployed here. And now if we want to use year pointer based on a color tip, then here we can simply bring this color tip, this year section, into the color tip. Now we can see the same visualization has been deployed as a part of the year section. So now here we have all the years, and here we can see a single report. Now if we want to, now currently we are seeing the entire report based on the quarter, correct? Now if we want to expand this not to quarter, we want to see month-wise report, then here we can define month-wise report. So if you go to month, then here we can see the entire month-wise report has been generated, correct? And now if we want to segregate this further, again we can click on plus, and we can see the same report is now being segregated on a month-wise basis, and that too for different year that we can visualize. All right, so here we can define, okay, how exactly we are going to create the reports, and here we can define, okay, how exactly we are going to segregate them as well, based on a monthly basis, based on the, now here we want to have on a monthly basis or on a day-wise basis or on a quarter basis, and here we can visualize it as per the setup defined or as per the setup required, right? And if we hover over any of the pointers, we can see, now here we can see the entire month or the day, we can see here the year of date, and here we can simply visualize the entire profit, and that too for different years as per the graph that we have currently defined. So here we have the order date, here we have the entire sum of profit being divided in different years, and if we see this, now here we can see the entire legends, as in the green one is for 2015, the red one is for 2014, the orange one is for 2013, and then blue one is for 2012 as a part of segregated data set. And now, for example, let's say here we want to visualize this based on sales growth, for example, on year-to-year growth, right? So again, we can choose profit. Again, we can bring the profit to the same ratio, and here we can click on it, and here we have the entire quick table calculation. So now here we want to plot this based on year-to-year growth. Right now, here we can see currently we have the difference of in profit in different years for different, you can say for different years. So here we can visualize that in July, suppose in July 2013, there was a big difference. There was a difference of 250% in terms of the profit, right? Whereas again, as in year-to-year growth, and this has the performance for each and every year based on simple profit ratio, right? So here we have the actual profit distribution, and here we have simply calculated the difference in profit ratio as a given percentage. And let's suppose here we want to make sure that this sum is defined as a tooltip. So here we can drag this in tooltip, and here we can have the entire difference in profit. Or if you want, okay, this one should stay here and the profit sum should be defined as tooltip, and here we can have the entire tooltip defined. That means tooltip means, if you all can notice that once we hover over any data pointers here, now we can see the difference in profit also being available as a hover, as a tooltip. So what we have done, we have simply, instead of plotting this, if we want to add any data here as a part of tooltip, then we can simply drag and define this on tooltip as well. Next, we have categories. Now we have to find out the answer to the question where, okay, which category of products have been not, we can see not performing well. So what we have to do, we have the section for categories available in the left sidebar. So here we have the city, the category of products. So what we can do to see the performance of categories, we can drag categories, and for example, here we can place them in the row section. So now we can see for furniture what has been the year-wise performance, what has been the performance for office supplies, what has been the performance for technology as well, because these three are the three categories of product that we have, right? So we can see the difference in the performance for these different products one by one, correct? So that we have now, we are having a better picture clarity on how different product has been defined. Now if you want to save this, suppose let's say here we can rename this sheet here. Now we can define this as profit seasonality. So we can see, okay, how profit has been distributed across year by year, and that how it has been distributed at what time of the year. We can see the entire seasonality, and then we can save this sheet so that we can, once we are done, we can create a report here and we can know, okay, what exactly we have been working on this sheet. And if you want to create a new report, then we can create a new sheet out of it, and then we can resume accordingly. All right. So that's what we can define for, again, for season by season seasonality. We can define the entire ratio here. And then same way, for example, suppose if you want to customize the entire look and feel for any specific category. For example, here we want to change the currency. If you want to go for a different currency distribution, we want to visualize them separately, then we can change the entire look and feel for the entire parameter accordingly. For example, here we have profit, right? So here we can click on profit, And if you want to change the number here, then here we can go to the entire default properties and number format. So here we can choose what kind of number format we want to use as in currency, right? Currently we are showcasing only currency in this format. And again, if we are going to display any unit here, we can define it, or we can add the suffix and prefix accordingly, depending upon what kind of policy or what kind of we can say currency we are going to visualize the current data set in. Now, this entire view gives us a better idea of how they have been structured together, and then how we have to make, and again, how they have been profitable, so that we can now present this report to the entire team to give them a quick glimpse, okay, how exactly they have been performing. Now, then we can define the entire performance based on state-wise performance as well, correct? So what we can do here, we can define state-wise performance. So for that, we can create a new sheet. We can create a new sheet where we can choose data pointers for different state-wise performance as well. Because of why we can plot this on graph, because again, we do have the geospatial data available with us, right? We do have the access to perform geospatial analysis. So we can create a new sheet, and here we have data for state. So let's plot this on state itself. So here we have our state. So let's do one thing. Let's simply drag and drop in the state value here. And once you drag it in the sheet, now we can see different states wherever the sale has been achieved. This is going to be visualized. Now, if you want to use a different map for visualization, then here we can explore more, like show me. And here we can use this map for plotting this in terms of the area altogether. In terms of area. So currently we had to visualize this based on the current data set altogether, correct? Now we want to make sure that we are simply segregating it based on the profit, right? So for example, here we can define profit, and here we can add as a data pointer here, as a part of color pointers here. Now we can see different color pointers have been added based on the profit given. So even if we visualize on different patterns here, we can see how the profit has been distributed based on this color scheme defined. Based on this color scheme that we have currently defined here. And if you want to make changes to the color scheme here, suppose here we want to customize this further, we can click on the color scheme, edit colors. Now these are predefined color scheme that we can pick from. For example, here we are automatic. We want to use the orange, blue, again this one here. So we can simply click on change here, and same change is going to be applicable for any color scheme or for any report that we are going to generate accordingly. So here we can pick any color scheme as per the requirement. We can choose green diversity here. We can choose any other color scheme. For example, let's say if you want to change this again, let's see, want to change this for blue green brush. So here we can click on apply, and now the entire color scheme has been changed, which now depending upon where and how exactly we want to define it, we can define it as per the requirement. And now we also want to visualize this based on the sales. So again, we can simply define sales, and we can define as a color property. So now we are seeing the performance on sales and the entire profit ratio that has been defined as per the current analysis that we have currently been doing. For example, now earlier we had profit, right? So here we can define profit to color, and now we can define sales as the size. If we are going to plot multiple graphs here, so here we can define sales as size, and then we can define state as a detailed section as well. So for example, here for state we have defined as label, and then for different categories we can define it as label as well, so that this can be easily help in visualizing the entire current data set here. So for example, we want to define categories, okay, which has been the most popular, we can say most on-demand category. Then here we can simply drag category and put them under label. So now we can see the performance of different category has been currently plotted on top of this data set altogether. All right. So basically, to add categories here, we can simply remove the categories, and now the category-wise distribution we have added as a part of the label sets. For example, we want to add labels here. Then we can see which main category has been, again, what has been distribution for one specific category that we are going to focus on. For example, suppose here we want to filter out, this applies only for furnitures. Then here we can choose furnitures, and we can see the entire distribution of only furnitures in different states. If you want to visualize the entire, we can say entire data pointers, not for just furnitures, but again, we want to show them based on the suppose office supplies or based on technology, then we can simply define these parameters as a filter. We can do that. So that is how we can visualize different data pointers here when we are working with different POM statement as a part of the discussion on Tableau. Let's use another sheet. For example, let's say here we want to visualize the category and the profit for it. Now we can choose any of the based on the given data set. Tableau automatically suggests us what kind of data pointers would be the best one for us. For example, here we have a pie chart. We can use a pie chart. We can use a heat map. We can use the entire bar graphs. We can use we can use bar graphs. We can use heat maps. We can use the box plot. We can use a scatter plot box here, depending upon what kind of visualization method is going to be the best option for us to go ahead with, right? So depending upon that, we can simply visualize the current, we can use the current data set, and then we can start plotting them accordingly. All right. So for example, suppose here we have this graph here, we can choose this particular plot here, correct? And same way, for example, let's say here we also want to throw in the complete segment as well. So here we can also add segment. Suppose here we, apart from categories here, we also want to further segregate them based on segment here. So here we can define segment. So now we can change the entire segment, and then we can simply visualize how exactly we are going to segregate them. And again, we want to simply segregate them based on the order date as well. So here we can choose order date. And suppose here we want to showcase an order date based on the different color schemes here. So here we can define order date based on the scheme, and here we can simply define. Now here we can choose, let's say we choose the year wise in terms of segment, and here we define segment as different colors. So currently we can see here we have different segments that we have visualized, and then we can segregate them based on different year-wise performance as well. That means what has been the performance of different segments accordingly. And again, if you want to have different methods defined here, then we can also plot them based on different graph methods. We can also plot them on different segments as per the requirement. All right. We have the same Tableau platform, basically here we can use the entire dashboard. First of all, if we want to create a new dashboard out of the current data set, here we can click on new dashboard, and there we can define the entire dashboard, how many sheets we are to create here. We have now here we can define the entire device preview as well, because at the end, if we want to give the access to the same dashboard to multiple teams, then here we can define the entire dashboard. Okay, how exactly we have to customize it. For example, here we have to customize it to fit all or fit width, or we have to define a fixed width. Depending upon the parameters, then we can define the width accordingly, depending upon how exactly we want to place them one by one. All right. Once we are done now, here in terms of layout, we can define the entire layout as well. That means again, how exactly we want to customize the entire layout. If you want to have a custom layout defined here we can choose custom. And then we can define, okay, we want to have a horizontal layout defined here. We want to have a blank one, or how exactly we have to define the navigation. Then we can define the navigation as per the requirement. We can choose any of the navigation method as and when required. Thank you so much for being a part of the session, guys, and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.